Hey, welcome back everybody. A little bit out of my comfort zone today with the Mesa Rectifier models on the Headrush. I'm only going to cover the one, which is the modern. 'Cause I think honestly, most people that are getting Mesa amps in like real life, they're getting them for that modern metal thing. They've got the switches for the vintage raw and modern. I think most people getting into a dual or triple rack are getting it for that modern metal thing. So I'm just going to cover that one. I don't really have too much to talk about with the other two channels on it. So, like I said, not super familiar with this territory, but I do have some pretty good tips and tricks to get these kind of tough to work with Headrush Mesa models to sound pretty decent. So just keep watching, stick with me, and maybe you'll like it. All right, so as always, just quick rig rundown to kind of get us started here. So we have my usual Headrush template, which is just the parametric EQ and the side comp at the end of the chain there. There is a whole video on that in the description below if you want to check out what that is. Everything I do on the Headrush as far as going direct is based around this. For the impulse response, we have the free impulse responses from Leon Todd. This is his LT Brit 412, which is actually not the one that I'm looking for. I'm looking for the Marv 412, which is a Marshall 412 with vintage 30s in it, basically. I'm not sure on the mic selection, but sorry, just had to do a quick volume check there after switching impulse responses. Always do that to make sure you're not digitally clipping. You don't want any of that stuff in your sound. But anyway, so Leon Todd's impulse responses, always free, right from his channel, and also in the rigs that you can download from me if you choose to do so. Just a little bit of plate reverb, mix of 10%, a little bit of space as always, and then finally, we are using the Tread Modern, which of course is the Mesa dual rectifier model available in the Headrush in the modern voicing. So, like I said in the intro, I'm not super familiar with this kind of stuff. I typically don't use Mesa for anything. I've never owned a Mesa. I think I've played like one dual or triple rec in my lifetime, honestly. Let's see, I had the Wampler triple rec pedal for like 5 minutes, and I couldn't get along with that either. But let's just get into some sounds here. So these are the stock settings. So everything halfway up except for presence at 30, and I guarantee that this is going to sound bad. Okay, it's muddy, it's unpleasant, there's no definition, the bass is super flubby. So basically, I have some settings that I was playing around with and I jotted them down. Sorry, one second. But I kind of got some of these settings from Leon's channel, honestly. He is like the Mesa lead, mark, rectifier, like master. He just gets these things sounding so awesome. His band Ragdoll obviously sounds really awesome, and I think that's a lot of Recto stuff. So he is the magician with these things. The only thing I didn't directly kind of cop from him are the graphic EQ settings that I'll be showing you. Because there isn't really a great translation from Fractal to Headrush for the graphic EQ settings that are built into the amp models on the Fractal products. So I had to come up with the best thing that I could. But we're pretty close here. So I think the gain at about halfway pretty much is about where it's going to be, especially if you're going to boost it for solos. probably don't want to go much higher than that. But so the presence can go all the way up to 70. And then we'll skip master for now. Treble, you want to bring up to around 75-ish. Mids around 65, and you can go heavier on the mids too, but this seems to work all right. And then these amps have a ton of bass in them. 30 is pretty good, probably 25 in my case is better. That's kind of a little bit what I like the feel of more. And then for master volume, just like a lot of heavier amps, or not even heavy amps, but say like the JCM 800, where I like to keep the master low. Keeping the master low gives you like clarity and definition in higher gain tones. You know, this high gain amps aren't really designed for power amp breakup. That's more of the like Vox and like Marshall Plexi, JTM kind of territory. It certainly can do those things, but as you're not really adding value to high gain amps by cranking the master. The master volumes on high gain amps are purposely designed to just give you clean volume, not to add to the distortion. So that's the whole purpose of that. But it seems like the master on this is pretty well at home at about 20%. And then compared to our first clip, this is going to sound like this. Told you I'm not really at home with this kind of thing. We do some drop D stuff in the band, but even just playing in drop D really isn't my thing. But so that's a little better, right? There's some clarity, there's more bite in the sound, but it's not quite there yet. So if you're familiar with a lot of Mesa products, there's a number of them that have graphic EQs built into them, and basically the idea there is to kind of do the whole smiley face thing, which is typically like a guitar tone no because it means cutting mids and boosting the extreme ends of the sound, but it's a thing that kind of just works for Mesa amps. It gets you out of that kind of like that really crappy Linkin Park kind of sound, and into something more usable, almost more like 1987 Whitesnake kind of stuff, some more modern metal. I can't really think of band names right now because I don't really listen to a whole lot of modern metal. I listen to modern metal, but it's like modern takes on more hair metal things, stuff like Crazy Licks, Santa Cruz, Heat. And this new band you guys should check out called Nestor. It's spelled Nestor. Be sure to check those guys out. 1989 is a freaking hit. That is an awesome song. But so this graphic EQ, you have to kind of picture the smiley face because our graphic EQ is just knobs on the side of the screen. But boosting the lows, right? Cutting low mids, cutting mids even further. And then we're back into boosting high mids and boosting highs even further. And that's kind of where our frequency band ends here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bands, which is a pretty typical. We don't need to add any gain. This is just for tone shaping. So quickly without it again. Okay, and then with the graphic EQ. It winds up a little bright that way, for sure, but that's definitely, to me, like an idealized modern metal sound, the modern recto thing. But if I was to go a little more traditional, I'd take the mids a little higher, and I'm gonna take the treble down just a bit because the treble is pretty fizzy on this amp, and the presence too, maybe just down to 60 or so. And then this is the result. Let's see. You can tell I'm really uncomfortable with the drop D thing. So, I mean, that sounds pretty good for what a recto is. It's as good as I think I can get them on the Headrush with the tools that I'm given and just my knowledge of using the amps. You know, pretty typical to throw something like a Tube Screamer in front of this, or even a Boss like SD1. But we have the Tube Screamer in front, and it's super basic, no drive, tone right up in the middle, level cranked. That would just maybe tighten things up even a little more for a delay sound, or for a lead sound. And we're just gonna throw dual delays right in there. And that sounds like okay, enough of that. Honestly, that's my best possible take on the Mesa amps. There's probably guys using Headrushes that can get better sounds out of them, but I think the best tip I can give you is actually the graphic EQ behind it to do that kind of smiley face thing, right? But to first boost the mids in the amp itself, and then make sure to have the graphic EQ behind the amp. That part is very important. It's a totally different thing when it's in front, and it's not really how the amps work in real life. So honestly, that is about as far as I'm going to get you with these things. I don't think that was a bad sound. That was pretty pretty average, but hope you got something out of this, guys. Thank you.